Hello, welcome to today's Studio Armor review. No, this is not a terrain video. This is actually some units from the House Clans, my Exodite army. Now, one of the things that I had to try to figure out was how to incorporate some of the natural creatures that would be on the planet, as some of the special units. Well, it turned out that by doing the Dragon Singer, this being the Spirit Seer, and saying the Wraith units were indigenous creatures, that freed me up. My mind went in a lot of different directions. Well, it ended up settling on an inspiration I got from playing Skyrim. I loved the concept of Spriggans as protectors of the forest or what have you. And thought, why not? That's what these will be. They're indigenous creatures. They are Spriggans, to use Skyrim's term, and they are there to. They want to protect the environment of Lorien. That's what I found. Now, I developed these prior to the 6th edition. These were done really early. I think this was actually my first Eldar unit I've made, okay, for the Exodites. It was actually these Dryads models. And what I used, this is part of the 5th edition, in the 5th edition Codex. I came up with, it was this 6, it was the one before the D weapons came out. And I was looking at, it was the one before. So I looked at the stat lines and some of the ideas, and I was able to kind of come up with some variations. So back in the day, there were actually 4 versions, and obviously the branches, their claws. That's the Wraithguard with the 2 swords. That's just 2 large claws, perfect. Upgrading it to a Force Axe. That's the wraiths that have you can see this special long heavy clawed arm. Those would be the Force Axe ones, or Ghost Axe. Then you had 2 that had kind of a ranged weapon. Well, the one that had the flamer thing was really easy, and so I made these. They're very gnarly looking, but the key is on the base there are little tendrils coming out, because what I interpreted the flamer attack as is sending root shoots forward from their feet, or basically causing the plants in the area to reach up and grab or strike at the enemy and pull them under the ground. That was the attack they had. Now for the Wraithguard that would actually shoot the 12-inch range, at the time I thought, well, there are a lot of venomous type creatures, pests that can get in small areas, small vents on vehicles, gaps in armor. So these Spriggans would kind of summon forth those. Now, I can't take credit for that idea completely, because some of the Spriggans in Skyrim do exactly that with the bees, swarms of bees. So that's why they've got the little wasp's nest that converted the skull that was hanging there to a wasp's nest looking thing. So that would be what's now the Wraith Cannon, the D weapon at 12-inch. Doesn't quite make sense anymore, because the bugs, no matter how poisonous or lethal some of those things might be, it never come to be a D type strength. So, and I could argue that even the Wraithguard with the D size don't interpret as well. But again, the idea of having the opponent pulled under the dirt and basically entombed in earth, pulled under by the roots of the fauna or flora in the area, kind of still falls in that D weapon space. So, and especially since the D weapon is kind of dumbed down a bit, or it's nerfed a little bit. Now, granted, it's hard to say nerfing D, but when you miss it entirely on a 1 and a 2, and the best you can do is the D3 wounds. I think it still works. So what the way I kind of wrote up kind of 3 or 4 different types. There's the common Spriggan, which is the standard Wraithblade. There's the Iron Spriggan. The Iron Spriggan is the one that's the Wraithblade with the Force Axe or Ghost Axe. The Gnarled Spriggan, that's the one with the D scythe. And the Great Spriggan is the one that would send out the bugs, which I basically don't use anymore because it doesn't mentally make sense. I've come up with a different way of treating that one, but I haven't built any models for it, so I won't go into it yet. Now, I wanted to put a little mystery in here. I kind of like the idea of these being forest creatures. It fits really well, but with the Exodites having a world circuit like the Infinity Circle on Craft World, I thought that I could throw an alternative interpretation in there. So what I decided is that I added a little note that one theory about the nature of these creatures is that they are not actually wood spirits or sentient plants, but actually trees which have been taken over by an Eldar spirit. Now, it is known that the Eldar spirit stones are broken upon the altars of the world spirit, much the same way as Craft World Eldar break the stones and release the spirits into the Infinity Circuit. Now, since the world circuit is a network beneath the surface, it's believed that in times of danger, the Barons call on the departed Eldar to help them. In response, the spirits within the world circuit select small trees within which to manifest themselves. So maybe these are kind of like wraith units, in a sense. So I like to leave that open to interpretation. Either way, they ends up with a pretty tough unit that can do some damage, and it just really screams out Wood Elf or Exodite. So that's my interpretation of the Wraithguard and Wraithblades using the Dryad model, and all I did it's very simple. The Dryad model kit comes complete enough where you can, and I put on 2 back branches instead of just the one to make them a little bit bulkier. And the common heads, I don't have the crown with the crest on top. Okay, you'll see on the greater Spriggans, there's this crest. Hopefully you can see that there. There's a crest up on top. I think this one might show up better because it's highlighted a little differently. So you got branches coming off the head, and these don't. So by selecting the heads with very, very few branches on them for the common Spriggans, adding ones that had a few more natural branches on it without adding the special crown, I was able to have the Iron Spriggans. I took the special crowns, see if you can see that there, right there, and put them attached to the feet. So again, these are the tendrils that'll go under the ground and reach out and grab the opponent. I put them underneath. So instead of putting them on the other 2 Spriggans, I put them on the feet of the Gnarled Spriggan, and made sure he had the crown that looks like the ram's horn. Gave him a little more fierce looking, and made sure he had no foliage on him. And then that allowed me to put the full majestic branch crown on the greater Spriggan. So that's how I differentiate between the 4. And I need to get a couple more boxes to make some fuller units. What I typically do is just run them in 2 groups. My opponents are pretty open to, I'll just tell them these are the ones with the D sides, and these are the ones with, I like to run them with the Ghost Axe. They lose the attack, they attack last, but it's a pretty mean attack, so I generally do that. So just wanted to let you know in on that. That's my approach to the Wraithguard for the Exodites without actually having to get Wraith structures. Let me know what you think. Share, like, subscribe. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time out and seeing this. Hopefully I'm giving you ideas and inspiring some creativity on your part. Alright, this is the next Studio Army review. Bye.